Hey, what's up everyone? It's Mr. Lang. In this homework helper video, I'm going to be taking you through a few questions on the roots in irrational numbers worksheet. And I'm going to do questions 1, 2, 8, 13, and 20. Then, of course, it's your job to finish the worksheet and do the online quiz. And you can omit questions 14 and 22. You can just cross them right out. So anyway, let's get started. Alright, number 1. Which of the following is the value of the square root of 36 plus 2 square roots of 25? Well, I know when you see the square roots, you kind of want to break it down into simplest radical form, but don't look past easy stuff here. The square root of 36 is just 6. So really, what we got here is this is 6. Alright, and the square root of 25, again, don't look past this, this is just 5. So really this is 6 plus 2 times 5. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, 6 plus 10 is 16. So it's just our answer. Now here's another way you could do it. You could put this whole thing in your calculator just as you see it, and it will give you the answer too. So this is such an easy question, but I see a lot of people kind of goof it up just because they get confused with the radicals. Anyway, let's move on to number 2. Number 2. It says the expression 3 radical 20 is equivalent to what? Now again, you could just put this in the calculator, you're going to get a decimal, and then you could put each one of these in the calculator and one of them is going to have the same decimal. But it's important to know how to do these. And remember what we do. We do our perfect squares list up in, we usually do it, once on our paper, maybe in the upper right corner. So forget 1, because 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. Then we got 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. And I'm going even way too far than I need to for this one because this is square root of 20. So 3 square roots of 20. 20 is not a perfect square. It's not in our list here. So we need to find the biggest perfect square that divides into 20 evenly. So 49, 36, and 25 are too big. 16 does not divide into 20. 9 does not divide into 20, but 4 does. And we know it's 4 times 5. So the way we would do this is we would say, okay, square root of 20, that's the same thing as the square root of 4 times 5. Then we'd split our two radicals. So we'd get the square root of 4 and the square root of 5. And it's important to put the 4 first because that's our perfect square. The perfect square root of 4 is 2. And we're still left with the square root of 5. 3 times 2 is 6. So this is 6 square roots of 5. And again, so this is answer 3. Again, you can check your answer super fast. Put in 6 square roots of 5 in your calculator, you'll get a decimal. 3 square roots of 20, you should get the same decimal. Alright? Cool, let's move on to the next one. Number 8. And this is the type of question where you would get with completing the square as you get towards the end. It says, which of the following is a solution set to the equation x plus 2 quantity squared equals 25? Well, I'm going to rewrite the question here. And to undo a square, remember that's square root. But the trick is, and this is what most people forget, is when you take a square root, you have to do plus or minus. Because there's going to be 2 answers here. So what we got here, the square root undoes the square, so we're left with just x plus 2. And this equals, well, the square root of 25 is 5. So this is plus or minus 5. And we want to get x alone, so this is, we'll subtract 2 from each side. And we can't take the 2 from the 5 because this is really two answers. So really what we got is x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 5. So we get two answers. If this is a plus, it's negative 2 plus 5, which is 3. And if it's negative 2 minus 5, it's negative 7. So our answer has got to be number 2. Alright, and you can check this really easily by subbing in your values for each of them. If x was 3, what you'd have is 3 plus 2 squared. Does that equal 25? And 3 plus 2 is 5 squared. And we know that's true. If you sub in the negative 7, what you get is negative 7 plus 2 squared equals 25. This would be negative 5 squared equals 25. And we know that negative 5 times negative 5 equals positive 25. So that checks too. So both of them work. And like this is a Regents question, and with multiple choice, if you forgot how to do all this, you were just blanking, you could sub these, any one of these answers back in here, and one of these, both numbers are going to check. So there's multiple ways to do the multiple choice. Alright, number 13. It says, which of the following represents the solutions to the equation x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0? And the first thought is, can I factor this? And so you make your square, your window, and this is a 2 by 2. And you're like, okay, well, one way I can get to positive 4. The clue here is that this is positive 6, so probably both numbers are going to be positive. You could try 2 and 2. But then you'd get 2x and 2x, and that equals 4x, not 6x, so it can't be 2 and 2. So maybe I can try 4 and 1. And so you get 1x and 4x, and that gives us 5x, still not 6x. So this is not factorable. So if it's not factorable, then you got to use completing the square. So we do x squared plus 6x, and this is something we have already reviewed, plus what? Oops. And then we do the plus 4 on the outside, and if we add something, we need to subtract something, and this all equals 0. So we'll complete the square. Remember how we get the number that goes in the blank. You take half of 6, which is 3. 3 squared is 9. So we'll add 9 and subtract 9. And we squared 3 to get that 9. So this is going to be x plus 3 squared. And 4 minus 9 gives you minus 5. This all still equals 0. And this is going to kind of go where one of the previous questions we just did. If we want to solve this, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I get x plus 3 squared equals 5. And remember how we solve this. We take the square root. And when we take the square root, we get plus or minus. So I'm going to start working over here. Let's see. I got x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 5. And I can't break down the square root of 5 anymore. No perfect square. 4 would be the only possible, and that doesn't go into it. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, leaving me with x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. And I can't simplify this anymore. And let's check this out. That is going to be answer number 3. All right, let's move on to the last question, number 20. All right, number 20, it says solve the following equation for all values of x. Express your answer in simplest radical form. All right, so this is kind of a complex equation here. But you can tell with that square, we're probably going to have to do a square root at some point. Anyway, first step is you see the divided by 5, you see the plus 7. You got to take care of the plus 7 first. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, leaving me with x plus 2 squared over 5. That is a bad looking 2. All right. Equals 16 minus 7 is 9. Now, we could put 9 over 1 and cross multiply, but I think it's just as easy to say, well, divided by 5, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. So this gives me x plus 2 quantity squared equals 45. All right, I'm going to take the square root. Don't forget the plus or minus. So I've got x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 45. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, leaving me with an almost final answer of x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 45. And this is all good, except for square root of 45 is not simplified all the way. It's not a simplest radical. So again, I'm going to put my perfect squares in the upper right corner, or you could reuse the ones you already did. 36, 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, and I guess that's more than good. So we want to find the largest perfect square that divides into 45. Can't be 64, 49, those are too big. 36 is no good, 25 is no good, 16 is no good, but 9 is. 9 times 5 is 45. So what I'm going to do up here is the square root of 45 is equal to the square root of 9 times 5. Break them both apart, and the square root of 9 is 3. So our final answer in simplest radical form is x equals negative 2 plus or minus 3 square roots of 5. And that is it. Cool, I hope it was helpful for me to go through these questions. Now it's your turn to finish the rest of it and do the online quiz. Thank you very much for listening.